Hey, Joyful Journeyer, Anita Adams here, your host. And today I'm pleased to introduce you to Danielle Rama Hoffman, a spiritual mentor and coach who guides other lightworkers who are ready to fully realize their divine mission. For over 25 years, through her advanced spiritual work with the Ascended Masters, Danielle has been raising consciousness on the planet and assisting thousands of coaches, healers, and experts around the globe, from emerging practitioners to well-known seven-figure spiritual leaders, to do the same, raise the collective consciousness. As we share a similar mission, I'm particularly excited to have Danielle on the show to share with you her wisdom. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
I truly do love the work you've been doing, and I've been a follower of your work for at least a year. I took one of your it was a forum, I believe, that you did probably 7 or 8 months ago, and you had so many amazing speakers on this forum sharing their wisdom and their insights and their gifts to the world. And I walked away from that forum incredibly inspired, lit up, feeling like, yes, there's more. I feel like there's more and more people coming together on this soul mission to raise the collective consciousness. And it's wonderful. And you, Danielle, you walk the talk. Everything you do is about bringing greater awareness to that divine within and empowering people to tap into that wisdom. So can you tell me a little bit about your process for accessing that divine energy and connecting with your spirit guides?
Yes, absolutely. Well, fun that you joined one of the forums, and I love bringing together community and experts, especially as solarpreneurs. Sometimes we're just like in our own bubble, and it's just super fun to cross-pollinate and to have that, new paradigm of relationships of where we're really cheering one another on and co-creating together from that space of collaboration and more abundance for all. And yeah, so I love hosting those as well. Yeah, in terms of my process, since I feel like I've been at it for a while, and I know everyone's journey is different, yet I definitely remember even as a child being highly sensitive and noticing kind of the mismatch between what folks were saying and then the energy that I really could feel and the emotions that I could feel. And, so in the beginning, in my earlier years, being highly sensitive, it was challenging and confusing. And then I think that kind of brought me into counseling and massage and energy healing. And then it developed to also really be able to be more, let's say, proactive in terms of when I was tuning into what was around me and when I wasn't, and not overwhelmed. So the journey began very kinesthetically, where I would feel things. There were periods where I would see things. And, fast forward 25 years later, for me as an embodied conscious channel, it's very clairaudient and also like a knowing where the guides, I have that direct connection. So it's a little bit different when I'm connecting to my inner wisdom than when I'm connecting to a bandwidth of wisdom like ascended masters or guides. Same principles, yet
Mm.
a different lens.
I'm really curious about that and how you decipher or how you can tell the difference between what is yours, your own divine inner wisdom, and and when you're accessing or tapping in to the wisdom from that greater bandwidth, as you say. How do you decipher what's yours and what's not?
Hmm. Yeah, the probably the simplest way is to talk about signature energy and how we all
Mm.
have a signature energy that really is our uniqueness, like how we might recognize someone that we know and love before they even walk into a room. There's just some divine qualities about them, or like this signature that we all carry energetically. And so I can sense my signature energy as well as recognize different beings of light and love that I work with based on signature energy. And then also kind of maybe one way to talk about it is divine qualities. So there may be the divine qualities of like the Magdalene love beings or Isis that have a lot of love energy. Or I also work with Thoth, the god of infinite knowledge and the Akashic records and scribing, and that has more of like of a wisdom bandwidth. Or a galactic council just feels more galactic. The interesting thing too about that is sometimes it kind of depends. We have different levels of divine wisdom or our own inner wisdom. So if you would have asked me, maybe 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, I could tell, because sometimes the guides will come in and say things that I don't know in my consciousness, or it's like beyond the level of my waking consciousness. And yet I also experience that, and I'm sure you do, and your listeners here do as well, where we do tap into our own inner guidance of our higher self that's beyond our current waking state or knowing. So that wouldn't really be a differentiator anymore. Yet it does feel a little bit different. Like if I'm tapping into my wisdom, it doesn't feel too like, oh, I didn't know that already,
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had a number of experiences. I started, what do you call it? Spiritual writing, where I've been, I don't know if I want to use the word channeling, because I'm not sure if that's it, but I feel something is coming down through me. And I have not been able to really figure out if that is something, if that's my own inner wisdom, or am I tapping into that divine bandwidth, a higher, but it does feel like it's a higher power. And I guess I'm such a newbie at all of this that I'm still trying to figure out what's going on, but it feels much bigger than just me. And I love that. And there's been a number of times where I'm like, this is just me, I'm tapping into just me. And then there's been a number of times where it's just like, wow, it feels like something much more substantial. And I'd like to find ways to access that more frequently. And I don't know how to do that yet. Other than just practicing, just continuing to reach out and communicate with my spirit guides. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if that is too big of a conversation to have on a short podcast. Maybe it's much more involved.
Well, I feel like it brings up one of the myths, or kind of what the guides say illusion lies around, what we can call it channeling or scribing, or I called it divine transmitting for a long time, where we're tapping into a band of consciousness, and that is coming in a way that it's not only words, but there's also an energy behind it. And a lot of folks say that read my books or have the card deck or whatever, that they have this sense of it's almost like a session, because there's energy when they read it. And I feel like when it's coming through us, we also have that sense, like where maybe truth tears come, or our hands may get hot, or those things. But back to the myth, I feel like one of the, we have these beautiful minds, and they have a role in our inner wisdom panel. They have a role in our translating higher consciousness and transmitting in our own ways, however that looks like for us. And yet also the protective aspect of the mind will go, am I making this up? Like I've heard that so many times. So it's like, out of the billions of things you could make up, like, why are you making that up? So I often will just say, well, thank you for sharing, and let's just keep going. And another myth is that like the burning bush just comes down and we have this, aha. I'm like very proactive. I show up, and that's what you're talking about. You have a practice. I'm curious. I ask questions. I show up. I have regular meetings with my non-physical friends and guidance panels, and it's very proactive. It's receptive and receiving, yet it's also like, okay, let's talk about this, let's explore this.
Yeah, I think that's key, that proactive, and that willingness to keep at it, to keep reaching out to your guides and having the conversations. Okay, so you recently created and released a beautiful 44 card deck. It's called Magdalene Manifestation Cards, Create Abundance Through Love. So first, congratulations on this very successful launch. I understand that it's one of Amazon's top sellers in a very short period of time. So well done, you. Congratulations. Can you tell us who is Magdalene and what is her significance?
Yeah, thank you. I received that congratulations celebration. It's always so just exquisite to see something that's been happening in the works behind the scenes reach the heart and lives of those that it's in response to their asking, their calling. So I'm just really tickled pink to have it out in the world in a bigger way. So the Magdalenes are, a lot of folks may have heard of Mary Magdalene or Isis, or when they first started coming in as light love beings, they really talked about Magdalene midwives, past, present, and future. And that they came in also not only as the feminine love beings that we may be used to thinking of as Magdalene, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, even Yeshua, yet or Anna, the grandmother of Yeshua, yet they came in the sacred union of like Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, or Isis and Osiris. And that's one of the things that I find is really unique about the manifestation cards, is that they're each codes of love, like there's 20 codes of love that have both a being state or a feminine image, and then also a more active or a key or a masculine energy. So their message or significance, kind of why they've come in, is really to help us integrate that. Well, it's already in wholeness, yet to bring it into more wholeness, the aspects of manifestation that are being receptive, in a state of grace and a state of love, and then also the active part of taking inspired action and really holding a line of sight. So it kind of goes back to our conversation about how do we access our inner wisdom. There is a sacred union of the two. And in terms of who the Magdalenes are that have been the source of this body of work, it's also a very cosmic or intergalactic kind of new energy. So not only what we think of 2000 years ago of Mary Magdalene, yet also kind of where we're headed and the frequencies and vibrations that we need in terms of the elevation and consciousness and where we are, where we're headed. And so they also talk about in the guidebook of how we're Magdalenes, and that we're Magdalenes in form, those of us that feel called to that. And that Magdalene is also a title, like how there can be so many Marys. As I live in southern France right now, and there's just so many Marys. And to think of Mary or Magdalene like a title, like we would have teacher or mom or doctor, and that title is really like being an energy master. So when we're mastering our energy from that place of love, that's a way that we can access our inner Magdalene self. And as we're talking about this, like, is this me? Is it the guides? Like, as I've been up at this for a while, I remember, especially when I was really deep in my partnership with Thoth or Toth or Thoth, that I would go like, well, is that my inner Thoth, or like, is it really the guide? And so we can get tripped up in those things. Yet the aspect of that is that I do feel like it is an as above, so below, as within, so without. So we have aspects of wisdom within us, which is represented by the archetype or the light being of Thoth. And then the same with the Magdalene, we have love within us that's represented in the Magdalene love being. So that's a little bit about the Magdalenes,
That,
non-physical and physical.
yeah, that's really great. And I had no knowledge of that, of the Magdalenes. I didn't realize that was a plural either. And the whole love aspect, I want to talk more about that. Love, part of my mission is to help create and help people find more love in the world, so we can operate from that place of love. And it seems to be a very big part of your mission, and to create abundance through love. Why is love an important ingredient for creating abundance?
Yeah, I remember like way back in the day when I first had my first business coach, and it was like, what's your 25-year plan? It's like, ooh, okay, we're not doing that anymore, really. But I got really clear of part of my mission being like raising the vibration of the planet to the heart center, to love. So if we look at the larger context of that, whether folks talk about it in terms of awakening or moving from the Piscean age and the solar plexus energy center to the Aquarian age and the heart center, or even vibrationally, just there's this acceleration happening. The planet is moving at a higher speed or frequency or hertz. My beloved husband is a cardiologist and molecular biologist and does hypnotherapy and timeline therapy and NLP and all that stuff. So it's always cool for me from the energy side to also kind of ask him, those sciencey things. And he shared with me how, like, when we have a heart cell that's moving at a faster frequency, it naturally entrains the slower vibrationally moving heart cell. So I feel like love is such a key ingredient because it's where we came from in unity, it's where we're going, and also in terms of speed and frequency, that as the Earth star, even though it seems like there's more duality than ever, comes into greater unity. Love is inclusive. Love is one of the most receptive energies of our heart center in terms of receiving. And when we're in a state of love, there is that openness. So the Magdalenes talk a lot about also our heart field, our horizontal plane, where it's also our, like, being that heart resonance, where we're in a state of coherence, and then like our wider bandwidth, where we're able to receive more. So I feel like love and divine love is one of the untapped resources that we have access to. Plus, it just feels good. So not only the emotion of love, yeah, which feels good, but really the frequency of love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was actually the first time that I felt beyond any doubt that I was receiving a divine download, was a message about being the love, to be the love in all that I do, to step in and be the love. And it was a very powerful experience. And I constantly come back to thinking about, how can I choose to be the love? What would love choose in this situation? And I always ask myself that now, and I coach my clients to ask themselves that question. What would love choose in this situation? And it often, when I listen and follow that advice, it makes a huge difference, which is beautiful. What are some steps that you think we can take to deepen that love for self?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as the Magdalenes especially have brought forth these 24 codes of love and the 44 cards, uh, they're and really that they are to use for manifesting, that creating abundance through love, I feel like can be one of the most loving things that we do, and that we be, and that we have. I know in your work as well, the harmony of what the guides call multi abundance or multidimensional abundance, where we're growing abundance in simultaneity, where our joy is growing and our health is growing and our relationships are growing and our finances are growing and our money is growing, or finances and money, and our work is growing, all together. And that, I feel like, is one of the biggest acts of love and courage that we can have, to also resource our mission. And I'm so passionate about that as well, especially for healers and coaches and practitioners who are here to make a difference on the planet. It also does require us to be resourced. So when you're saying, like, what would love do or what would love be, then as we're leading and partnering with others, we're coming from that higher frequency. We're coming from abundance. We're coming from love rather than the lack and survival consciousness and all of those things. So, when you say, what can we do to have more love, I feel like at some point it's also a decision or a choice to bring our
Mhm.
attention to it, and an act of courage, an act of self-love, to love
Mhm.
ourselves more, to be willing to also, again, be really well nourished and overflowing
Yeah.
from source.
It's got to start there, doesn't it? With that sense of love for self. And when you have that powerful sense of love for self, I think it's easier to one give more love outwardly, and to receive love as well. So it's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, and sounds like your cards are a great tool to help people develop that sense of love. It's and do I have that correct? Is it will it help? Can you use it as a tool to deepen your love for self?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that's really different about this card deck, and I did draw a card before for the podcast just to kind of see what card might step forward for the listeners here today, is that they are really not only can be used for divination or accessing our own inner wisdom, yet also create these energy environments or containers or holograms that support us throughout the day. So usually there's something that we'd all like to manifest more of, whether that's calling in the one or the dream job or having greater health or more time with our kids or whatever it may be. And to have a different altars or cards that we can pull can really be helpful in the process, so that we're steeping in like an energy container, an energy vortex, in order for that to come into form. So for example, I pulled the Magdalene molecule, which is a confident creator. Your creations have a divine design, hold a line of sight of positive expectations to make them inevitable. And this is the key card, so the masculine card. And I thought that message was so beautiful to go in a little bit more deeply around, like, hold a line of sight of positive expectations to make the divine design of your manifestations inevitable. And that's also another act of self-love and a love of others, to not like carry over the file cabinet of the learned helplessness of like, oh, I wanted this to actualize before and it didn't happen, or uh, that last date didn't go well, or whatever. I set aside time to spend with my kids and then they were on their phones, or whatever the things can be. But to really also hold a line of sight of positive expectation. And I also feel like, as coaches and healers and practitioners, that we're so blessed to be able to partner with others and to be entrusted to facilitate and walk with others in their evolution and transformation. And so that we get to hold that line of sight of positive expectation, rather than whatever limiting story they may be in or we may be in.
Right,
And so,
believing that the best is yet to come. The best is going to unfold for you. Having that positive mindset. Yeah.
yeah, and then taking inspired action.
And then taking inspired action.
Yeah, because I often draw, and the clients we work with are like not shy of taking action, like very high performing, high achieving, and at the same time, there can also be on the other side of things, which you talked about earlier, where someone may be doing all their affirmations or visualizations or meditation, calling in more money or calling in more clients or being of greater service. Yet if there's no physical plane avenue for the clients to find you, or for more money to,
Right.
like, both have got to be there. And
Yeah. 100%.
And
Otherwise, it's just a wish. Yeah, I love that. I think that's an important part that a lot of people forget when they talk about manifesting. Like, yeah, there's all these things you can do to put it out into the world that what you want to manifest in your life, and then you got to go after it. You can't just sit on the couch and wait for things to happen, right? So that's so important. Awesome. I like something that you said on your website, that it is time to cast aside lack-based consciousness and the energy of overworking, overdoing, and overthinking, and embrace the art of feminine manifestation based on love, receptivity, and grace. Can you elaborate on this a little bit? What is feminine manifestation? How is that different than masculine manifestation? And I feel like you touched on this a little bit already, but I really want to draw attention to the difference.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, wow. Well, it really, again, like as the Magdalene codes have come in this sacred union between the feminine and the masculine and coming together, like bringing our being state and our doing state together, the feminine Magdalene, the masculine Magdalene, really as a wink of our divine wholeness, that we are already divinely whole and in the sacred union. So in survival consciousness or lack-based consciousness, where in the larger scheme of consciousness, like where we've been in that survival place or lack-based, a lot of manifestation is based on that. Like, I've got to create this in order to survive, in order to pay bills, in order to whatever that kind of fear and doubt and those kinds of things create. And then when we're creating from lack and separation, then it's in the cookie dough. Like, then we're going to also be continuing that vibration of lack and separation. So one of the biggest kind of ninja timeline jumping hacks is the energy that we come from. That's what we've been talking about: love and abundance and co-creation and win-win-win relationships. And so when the Magdalenes came into my life in particular, I developed so much light, so much wisdom, such a connection in the higher planes. And yet it could only go so far without me opening my heart, and without our clients opening our heart, and light workers needing more love, so that all that wisdom can descend. We talk a lot about ascension, but the descension process of ascension, so that the wisdom up here isn't just spiritual concepts or like I've gotten this download. It's the wisdom that's experienced in the heart that then also goes down further into physical matter. And that's where I get so excited about really tapping into the non-physical and guides and the higher planes to create on the physical plane, able to be accessing our higher wisdom on the physical plane. So the Magdalenes are, but the system is both masculine and feminine, yet it does harness a lot of the feminine principles. So they talk a lot about receiving more without doing more, or creating a manifestation altar where you have an intention to create something in your multi-D abundance temple, your wealth temple. It may be more than one thing. You do a card spread, have it out on your nightside table while you're sleeping, and then you're in this energy environment, and you're already like tapping into the time that you'd be sleeping to be continuing to manifest like something like telepathic phone calls to those that you might have a divine appointment with. I'm sure that's how we connected, even though on the physical plane there were publishers that put us together, or I don't know who brought us together, but that kind of stuff. So when the guides talk about receiving more without doing more, there is this using our resting state, lying down, making sure that we're in the horizontal position of our bodies. Like animals, their spines go much more horizontal. They do have the vertical of their legs, like we have horses and cats, right? So their spine is much more like that, but our spine is straight up, and then we lay down to sleep. So it is, and I know this is like I'm giving a big download here of kind of a larger context, yet our light is that kind of vertical column, and then the love is the horizontal, and coming together in that cross or that ankh, that sacred union. So the higher wisdom is experienced, and then we're actualizing on the physical plane. So the Magdalenes do talk a lot about call upon your manifestation team, leap while you sleep. And on the physical plane, it can be a good question, like, where can I, and I'd invite you to tune into this, like, where can I receive more without doing more? Like, a bank account's a good example. Your bank account could receive more money in there without having to open a new bank account, depending on what kind of bank account it is. Or for coaches, if you have a group program, maybe you have a mastermind and you could really facilitate incredible results for double the amount of clients you have in there now without doing more work, the same monthly group sessions, however many you have. So to not only have it be a spiritual concept of receiving more without doing more, or like hiring team where you multiply your results because you have other individuals that are also buoying your mission, but to think about what are examples where you have already received more without doing more, and then maybe do a spread for that. So it is really bringing together the non-physical and the physical to work together. And I often see that folks have developed one really strongly or the other really strongly, or both, but haven't quite got them to line up. And that's what I notice for myself and for our clients. When they really line up, incredible, magical, seemingly miraculous results happen.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit like a bit of a tightrope walk, and it probably isn't, but trying to find the balance between being that active player that we were previously talking about, going after your goals and your dreams and your mission, and at the same time letting go of the hustle, letting go of the push and relaxing into it. And I think it takes skill to figure out that fine line so you can walk on it. And maybe it's, just being aware that it is a balancing act, it is a fine line, a tightrope that you need to be mindful of so you don't get into that push. Maybe is that the masculine energy, the push. You don't want to go too much that way, but you still have to have it. And at the same time, you need to have that rest. I'm hearing I need to nap more, is what I'm hearing from you. I get my downtime where I feel much is manifesting or is actually percolating is when I go for walks in nature. That is where I'm able to let go. And it seems counterintuitive to take time away from my busy work life to go for a walk in nature, but I'm way more productive when I do that. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm hearing, that you need to have that time, whether it's a walk in nature or proper rest, to be able to access both the feminine manifesting energy and then still push. It's not the right word. Push is not the right word. Focused energy in the direction you want to go is perhaps that masculine side. Am I getting that right? Am I understanding what you're saying correctly?
Yes, yes. And actually, one of the Magdalene codes is Emerald Love. And Emerald Love is all about the nourishment that we require that's bespoke for us, that may come from nature, that may come from animals, that may come from uh, crystals, or like we have the love that circulates in our relationships with what the guides call bipedals, with other folks, beings, people. And yet also recognizing that one of the ways that really nourishes our systems may be this emerald love, where
Hmm.
it's animals, crystals, the elements, those kinds of things. And back to the overthinking, overworking, over responsibility, that at its root usually is based in some separation or lack, or what the guides call BME filters, like slower vibrational body, mind, emotion, thoughts or feelings or emotions of lack. So I also feel like the codes really work to balance that. And when the Magdalene codes first came in, and I offered it and continue to in our Magdalene Wealth Codes program, now they're available in the deck. Yet for those that want to go deeper, the first code that we activate, and folks can activate it on their own, is the birthright of love code. And that really makes such a difference, because as high achievers, usually they're unconsciously, accidentally, like we're trying to prove that by manifesting XYZ thing, that we're doing what we came here to do, or that we're lovable, or that we're safe. There's usually some deeper energy that when it can be transformed, things naturally come into balance. And I do also feel like constitutionally, we tend to have our own unique combination. That's what I love about the Egyptian pantheon, is
Mm.
they show up in this anthropomorphic form. Like Thoth is the ibis and bird, and then like a masculine body, but then carries like a spiritual, the caduceus or different staff. So we also have these like, and is very lunar masculine, where Sekhmet, I guess I'm talking about Egypt for some reason, as I'm going back to Egypt, bringing a group soon, and just love Egypt. But I think the Egyptian pantheon is a good example of this, how we're all different. Where Sekhmet, who is the lioness goddess, is very like fire, solar feminine. So even though, yes, we're coming into an equilibrium between light and love, and slow vibration, fast vibration, masculine, feminine, constitutionally, we're all going to have our own unique blend of that. And also depending on which, what time in our life and what evolutionary cycle we're in,
Mm.
it may be more go time and it may
Mm.
be musing, ruminating, download time.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I know that I often get the download from my spirit guides that I need to just slow down and trust and allow things to happen. Just allow. Stop trying to control so much. And that's mine still to learn. It's an interesting journey. It's an interesting journey. Um, you mentioned something earlier, and it struck me, and I just want to back up a little bit. You said you partnered with Toth, and I'm curious about that those choice of words, partnering with spirit. Do you actually like do you enter into an agreement? I'm really curious to understand what you mean by partnering with Toth, and I suspect you have partnered with other spirit guides, and but can you just talk to me a little bit about that, and forgive me if that is such a I don't know, basic question, but I'm really curious about this whole your journey, your process.
Yeah, well, it's I'm glad you bring it up, and it's actually a very in-depth question, and that
Right.
you're following your inner wisdom to go, hey, there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it.
yeah. Well, the partnering with, for me, again, when we talk about what are some myths about channeling, or some illusion lies, as the guides talk about, is the partnering with is that we're coming from this place of equality, equanimity. One of the myths of channeling is like that the channeler is taken over, and it's not like that at all in the way that I work, and also with the way that the guides, they just have such a respect of our free will and our conscious choice. So that idea of partnering with is that I'm divine, and so is the being of light, that we're coming together in that heart to heart, eye to eye, peer to peer, divine to divine co-creation, and then it's really a partnership. Now, the second thing I want to say about that, and it goes back to emerald love, there's also another code of love that's star love, which talks about how we may be nourished from ascended masters, or from galactic energies, or energies that we may have experienced in other galaxies or solar systems. And so that's another piece of it, because I know it's unusual to say, hey, my business partner is a non-physical light being, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and like that's a real thing. Like I love my beloved husband, and we've
Yeah.
been together for 22 years, and yet he knows like I've got some main um very deep partnerships, not romantic partnerships, but really deep partnerships with beings of light and ascended masters. And that they're there to partner with us. So back to your question about agreements, I feel like that's part of the heritage of some of the spiritual shackles that the guides help us to dismantle, is that there have been like these past life vows, or even in a collective consciousness, like the healers, that there can be this legacy carried over of like not earning money, or not having personal gain from it, or those kinds of things. So I don't feel like it's a contract where I have to, or anything like that. It's more a very strong affinity. I personally feel like it's a lot of lifetimes that I've had in developing that wisdom and already working together. Egypt really was my entry point into starting to work with light beings in this lifetime. And then moving to France, you could see that's part of like my path, or what someone might call like a soul choice or contract. And then that opened up the whole connection to the love beings. So it's a very conscious relationship that I put time into. Again, I have board of directors meetings. We help our clients with this too. So we're not only running our businesses from our mind, but also having our inner wisdom and the non-physical supporting. And one of the difference frameworks of this, besides that, is not that God, Goddess, Great Spirit, the divine source is above us and we need an intercessor, but it's really, we're the divine and it's his equality. That's a big paradigm shift. Also, that we can have vital, alive partnerships with beings of light in the non-physical, and be very like I'm very grounded, very successful, very like here. So in that way, but then also that it does require time, and like you might have tea with a friend. Like I have regular meetings, and of course in the sessions and stuff, they come in, and that's where the bodies of work come from. Yeah,
That's
did that
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
and it sparked some more questions, and I want to ask a few more if that's okay. I feel like this is the direction. Part of why I started up the Joyful Journey podcast was a curiosity journey for my education and for the people that I invite to come along with me on this journey to discovery. So I'm super curious to understand how you came to did you choose Toth? Did you research the different spirit guides? Did Toth just come into your awareness and you're like, that's the one? Like why a partnership with Toth?
Yeah, and that to me brings us to kind of what our divine lineage is, where we're used our ancestral lineage, where mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, the whole genealogy. And yet, as us being source and an extension of source, and then also these different, again, like you could say past, present, future, alternate lifetimes, like other experiences on earth, and also I believe in other off-planet experiences as well, where we have different divine lineages, where maybe we've been initiates with Isis, or we've developed, even if we look at this in terms of archetypally or aspects of the divine, where we've done a lot of developing of a skill set like writing, or a skill set like music. And the goddess Hathor, for example, is the goddess of music and dance. So those creative endeavors and our lifetime studies and accomplishments can be related to our mission, to our purpose, to our theme, and then also the divine lineage. So I know for me, I've had a lot of experience with Egypt, and really kind of set up in this lifetime. I feel like even before I got here for that to happen. So for how this looked on the physical plane for me was when I was 9, I went to horseback riding camp in Georgia. I lived in Florida, and I went to this horseback riding camp, loved it, was amazing. Then became a counselor, all the things. And then in my early 20s, the women that had the camp, who'd been my riding instructors, my mentors in so many ways, introduced me to nature. As I grew up in the city, I was going to the country, like so much love and modeling of empowerment. And then they started teaching Reiki. And then I took my Reiki classes there, and I went to herb school there. And then there was a woman, Nikki Scully, who works with the Egyptian pantheon. And one of the women I went to camp with was a part of this lineage of Thoth. And so I took a workshop with Nikki that actually was with Sekhmet, the lioness goddess. That was my first reintroduction to the Egyptian pantheon. And her system, alchemical healing, all worked with Thoth, the god of infinite wisdom. And so that was a part of it. And that's also why I love activations. And we don't activate the codes in the Magdalene cards, but in the Magdalene Codes of Love program, we activate, because these activations, these transmissions, the Reiki attunements, learning these different healing systems, and then ultimately bringing in unique bodies of work through those partnerships with for me, Tove, and then having my own ascended mastery lineage, where I also transmit that for those that work closely with us. It's just kind of par for the course. So, to me, it's like, what's in our daily lives, who do we meet, what feels like a yes. And it was just like a series of yeses and yeses and yeses. And I know even back in the day, before all of that, and guides, that original mission of heart wisdom was there for me. And then it's been expressed in so many different ways and lifetimes. Like, I just have an affinity for higher wisdom. So, for everyone tuning in, maybe it's music, maybe it's being a mom, maybe it's the work with food and nutrition, or movement. Like, we all have that. And we look at that archetypally, in terms of gods and goddesses or divine states of being, whether it's compassion, there can be that thread that can also let us know an affinity to a certain divine lineage.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like you're following your heart, and the spiritual breadcrumbs, if you will. You're picking up the spiritual breadcrumbs as you traverse through life, and it's led you to that partnership. That's really interesting, and I am going to actually put the request out to the universe and to my spirit guides that I speak with, that I am directed to find my partnership, because I really want a partnership with a specific light being, and I have my guardian angels that I talk to on a daily basis, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's the one and only, and that's great. And I'm excited to explore where, if I put it out there with a request, to see what spiritual breadcrumbs might land in front of me that I can pick up and follow. So very cool. You said you started this session with picking, or before we got on a call, you picked a card. I was wondering if you would be willing to draw another card to close out this session, something that I guess with the intent of what we feel our listeners would really benefit from hearing right now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the spiritual breadcrumb, of course, here is that the Magdalenes have come in your field. And for those that choose to get the card deck, we do have a manifestation toolkit in there, which includes a Meet the Magdalenes guided meditation to really forge that, or deepen an even more direct connection with the Magdalenes. Yeah. So what message do the Magdalenes have here? So the magic of love, also a key card. So a masculine card, that's the second masculine card, or active state. Miraculous results. Love heals all separation. Regenerate wholeness in your heart and magically midwife optimal outcomes. So magic of love, miraculous results. The key is love heals all separation, regenerate wholeness in your heart, and magically midwife optimal outcomes. I love this one. It seems like it's so like in movement, and that spiral. And I especially connected to this one when my beloved Friedman and I were hiking the Camino, every day where it was just like, it seemed like a miraculous result to hike 25 kilometers, day in and day out, and this kind of movement of the magic of love. Yeah, but
I
feels
love
like
that.
when we talk about
Love.
love, all separation, also the trauma underneath, being
Mm.
overthinking, overdoing, over responsibility. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you. It's a beautiful message to end on. Now, if our listeners wanted to order a deck, and I certainly do, please tell us how we can do that. And of course, we'll include the information in the show notes. But tell us where we can connect and get your cards and connect with you.
Yes. So you can go to daniellehoffman.com/cards, daniellehoffman.com/cards. And then from there, you can purchase the book where books are sold, on Amazon, or depending on what country you're in, or Barnes and Noble, or my publisher, Inner Traditions. And then come back to that page and enter your order number into the form there to receive the manifesting toolkit. And the manifesting toolkit includes this Meet the Magdalenes audio guided meditation. It includes a reference sheet of all the codes and the affirmations that are associated with the codes. So I love that the deck is like open architecture. You can just pull one. And then sometimes it's really nice to just see the whole system, like it's on 3 pages, but all together, to see the feminine and the masculine together with the affirmation. And then it also includes a Yummy Money workshop, because that's one of the resource codes: Yummy Money, Divine Relationships, Sublime Time, and Radiant Energy. And so then for folks, like, while you're waiting for your card deck, you can already dive into the manifestation toolkit. And that's a great way to find me, daniellehoffman.com. We do also offer just the first code of love if someone wants to activate and go a little bit deeper, the Birthright of Love code, to see what that journey can be like, because some are called to get the deck, some are called to work more in depth with us in the program, the Magdalene Codes of Love, the Magdalene Love Codes.
Beautiful.
So that's a way to connect. And yeah.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I personally got a lot of value out of this conversation, and I value your time and the work that you're doing, and delighted to get to know you a little bit through this interview. As I said, I've been following you for about a year now, so it's kind of, you got a bit of a fan with me, so it's very exciting. And Joyful Journeyer, thank you for tuning in and listening. If you know anybody who you think would enjoy this episode and learning more about Danielle and the work she does and the cards that she just launched, please share this with those people. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.